appreciate everybody joining. First off, you'll probably notice a little rebranding on some of the surf race slides and things here. Our website's gotten a little overhaul, so we're trying to match some of the branding for these webcasts. Today we have a really cool session that we get to look at. I'm joined here with Cathy, Hodson, and Don Wood, both with the American Association of Nurse Anesthesists. I can't ever say that right. But we had a really interesting project we had a chance to work on, which was updating their public-facing website from Ektron CMS to SharePoint 2010. And it was so interesting, in fact, that we submitted it for a award submission with Microsoft. And last week at the Microsoft Partner Conference, we were one of 3 finalists for that award for Search Partner of the Year. And considering the winner and other finalists are both big consulting companies, EMC and Hitachi, we feel pretty good about the work that we did here. So I thought this would be kind of fun, is to get them on the line and do a little bit of a walkthrough of what were the real project steps involved with taking your website from a legacy CMS system and updating it to SharePoint. What are some of the design considerations involved? What are some of the milestones? And why did they actually choose SharePoint in the first place? So we'll do that kind of during the first half of the presentation. And the second half, we'll take a deeper dive into the search component. Obviously, that's where I was involved for the whole portion of the process, but looking specifically at, okay, if we have this public-facing SharePoint site, or even if we have an intranet SharePoint site, what are the steps for improving the search experience using something like Ontolica? What are the project steps involved, and what were some of the outcomes there? So this is our agenda. If you have any sort of questions, please feel free to ask them. Ask them early. We'll monitor the chat window. Everybody's muted right now. And so at the end of this, we'll go through any sort of QA questions that you have, and Cathy and Don will be online for that as well. And then we'll also, if you stick around towards the end, we'll divert after we go through all those questions regarding this presentation, and I'll show you a sneak peek of SharePoint 2013. And we actually have the full-blown version up and running with the Office Web App Server, which I doubt that many of people have seen at this point. So that should be a nice little treat for anybody that's able to stay a little long. We will make a version of this recording available to you. So anybody that's registered always gets that by usually about Monday. The slides for this have already been uploaded to SlideShare. So Derek will post in the chat the link to the slides as well if there's somebody that wasn't able to attend and you want them to be able to see these slides. So with that, we'll get into it. So the first few things I really want to pass over to Cathy and Don so that they can share their experiences, because they had worked with Ektron for several years before we got involved with the search portion and the migration portion of their SharePoint 2010 deployment. So what I'm going to do is hand it over to them and let them tell you a little bit about what problems they were experiencing that made them want to change content management systems in the first place, and then some of the considerations behind why they chose SharePoint, and then finally, what were some of the milestones on the bigger project as a whole. So with that, I'll hand it over to them. And Cathy and Don, if you just want to tell me, click when you want me to change slides, we can probably do that. That's probably a little easier than handing over the viewer.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Well, we had we used Ektron from between like 2000. I think we launched in 2006, and so we'd had it for about 5 years, and we went through a number of upgrades. I don't remember how many. Don could probably tell you that better than I could.
I don't even remember.
It was
there were
several.
Quite a few.
Yeah, and it just got a little restrictive, and as far as content management and being able to do the kinds of things that we wanted to do. But what really kind of pushed us into changing content management systems was that we began to overhaul our membership database and the financial systems. We were not able to really do e-commerce on the site or member registration for meetings, and the guys involved came to us and said, basically, we can do this and tack it on to Ektron, but it's going to be a noticeable difference when you switch between the two. It will look outdated. It'll look tacked on. So with that, we decided that we were going to go through a redesign of the website at the same time as we were going to be overhauling these other two systems. And as far as the search goes, our search engine was not. I believe that was part of Ektron, wasn't it, Don?
Yeah, it was part of. It was part of Ektron, and did not work optimally. It seemed to pick up. It seemed to crawl alphabetically. So, or your search results would be alphabetical, or they weren't by relevance, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it was further complicated by we got a little folder happy in the background in that and to organize our site we would use a lot of folders. For instance, in our publications, we would have a year folder for like 2012, and then within that 2012 folder there would be a folder for each issue. Our journal, it has 6 issues a year. Our news bulletin at the time had 12. And so to keep everything organized, we'd put everything in a folder. And I think that further flummoxed the search engine in that it had to open all these folders to try and find things. So it was just kind of bogged down, and it wasn't giving us the results that we needed. And that's what pretty much prompted both the redesign and looking for a new search utility. I think that you can change the slide now too, Jess.
There we go.
Yeah, so we, the guys neither one of them work here anymore, but the guys that came to us and said, we're going to do the redesign, they told us about 2 systems. I don't remember what one of them was, but the other one was SharePoint, and they said that if we worked with the membership and financial systems, overhauling those, that SharePoint would work very well with our Aptify. We went with Aptify for the membership system, and is it White Plains, Great Plains for the
Great
financial
Plains,
system?
yeah.
Great Plains, thank you. And that it would all work very smoothly, and it does. It really has improved. It's given us a lot more flexibility from the content point of view. We can use video, and we do have e-commerce now, and we have membership meeting registration, and it's just all come together very nice, along with our design. And one of the things that we did, we've tried really hard to stay away from creating multiple folders in the new site. So we're using site columns and views to organize and to find things and to be able to link to things that have a lot of content in one particular area, mainly our publications area. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Don?
Yeah, I don't really remember us talking about another application other than SharePoint. I mean, we've had SharePoint internally as a portal, SharePoint 2007, and I actually used to work for. I worked for AANA as a consultant for another firm that I knew had done a lot of work with SharePoint and had a lot of success creating public websites with it. So as soon as we were looking to change, that's what I fully recommended, because one of the major problems we encountered with Ektron was just the fact that since it was such a niche product and it wasn't widely used, SharePoint definitely was much better in that regard, because with a niche product like Ektron, if I wanted to find information about it or that, I pretty much had to use their support, which wasn't the greatest. But with SharePoint,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
With SharePoint, I can pretty much Google anything and I'll find whatever information I'm looking for. There's books about it, and it's a very, very widely used and supported product. So,
if I remember right, I remember one of the components of it was the fact that you guys were already using it internally, and so having one system that you're using both for your external and internal website really made management a lot easier. You didn't have to learn two different content management platforms. And I think a lot of people that are looking right now at doing website redesigns probably are in that same boat where they have SharePoint internally. They've used it as an intranet, and now they need to decide, hey, is this the right type of thing to push out publicly? And I know that's happened, been especially a big push for Microsoft in 2010, but moving into SharePoint 2013, I mean that it's all over it. That's what they're trying to push out, and they're making that experience a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean I know with 2007 it did it, but it wasn't as great with 2010. They largely improved it, and I haven't seen anything with 2013 yet, but it sure sounds like they're leaning that direction because that's how a lot of people are using it. So,
well, so let's, if you want to share a little bit of the overview on your actual project steps. What did you have to go through, really from a high level, from start to finish, on how do you take an old legacy content management system like that in a website and move it into something like SharePoint?
Well, we have an absolutely huge website, and it had grown hand over fist over, everything. And we had, I believe, I think visible on the site we had about 12,000 pages, but we had over the course of 5-6 years, we had created over 20,000 pages. And so we were in bad need of content cleanup. So we got word out to all the departments and said, we have a team of probably 20 authors throughout the organization, and we said, go through your sections. Is this still useful? Take a look at it. Let's clean it up so that when we go to the migration, we're not going to have to move, more than we need to. And we also went through and audited the content just to make sure that, it is useful, still has a purpose, and doesn't need to be updated, or maybe it does. And so we had a lot of activity in that respect. But then once that was done, we went through and with our consultant team on Saskatech and finalized the taxonomy, the structure, the navigation for the new site, as well as worked on the design, which we're very pleased with. It's very clean looking. It's a lot more intuitive on how to find things, and they began to build it out, which was very exciting. We had author training at the end of September 2011, where we went through an all-day training with the 20 authors, and it was at that point that we began migrating our content. We went through and we had the authors and the departments prioritize their content because we did have so much, and we only had basically 2 months to move content, and in the meantime there's other business going on as well. Our authors are not specifically dedicated just to the website. They also have department responsibilities that we asked them to prioritize, so that what we most wanted into the website was what absolutely had to be there when we launched, the mission critical content. And so they did, and we moved that, and we were very happy to launch on December 4th, which was a Sunday. We went up on a Sunday because that limited the amount of interruptions that we would have during that process, and it went very well. And we were very happy with our new site.
Very cool. So, if anybody has questions again about kind of the process that the team at AANA went through, make sure to send them through the chat so we can kind of address things towards the end here. I think it's a really unique experience to be able to chat with Cathy and Don directly, because a lot of times you have deployments that have such a small infrastructure team that almost everything's farmed out to a systems integrator to do all the design work, and so you don't get the opportunity necessarily to speak with them. Or on the flip side, the team is so big and you have so many administrators and architects and designers that are involved that you can't get enough of the people that know the whole story onto one call. So definitely make sure to take advantage of them for that. What I'll do now, I want to dip into this design and build new website piece right there. I came in kind of in the area of when they were finalizing taxonomy and navigation and doing some of the design bits. And search, as it is with most public websites, is really a critical piece of the whole experience. I mean, if you look at your own personal PCs, you probably have MSN or Bing or Google or something with the search engine as your homepage. And when you go to a website, usually the first thing you do is go to the search center. So it's really essential that was top notch. And SharePoint has a very, very strong crawling capability, a very good search engine. The UI side of things can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to manage, especially if you don't have, if you're handing it out to content authors that are not necessarily on the extremely technical side. So I'll show you a little bit about what the search engine looked like with Ektron, and then what everything rounded out to be on the final deployment with SharePoint 2010 with Ontolica on top of it. I'll also talk just a little bit about the management side of things, because I think that's a major component, is having something that you can add, say, visual best bets on a regular basis by, without having to go to the architecture team. So I won't go through all of this. You do have the slides available. Derek has posted those out in the chat for you to grab through SlideShare. But really, this is the high-level evaluation. We went through some metrics of, this is what we need to get out of the search experience, ideally in the new environment. So this is kind of a standard process of requirement gathering. We went through a little card sorting, a little requirement gathering, and we have a great webcast that we've done with Michael Pisarek that is all about requirement gathering. And if that's something you want to dive into, I highly recommend it. You can find it on surfray.com in our blogs and in our videos section. But some general, we want the search to be intuitive. We don't want people to have to learn how to use our search engine, was really the big takeaway. And then on the flip side, we need to be able to manage this without having to have somebody on staff for it full time. So that's exactly what we put together. To start, this was the Ektron400.net search UI on the old site, and you'll notice that aside from a bit of a scope drop-down, there's not really a rich experience here. If you get back, if you do the search for foundation here, and you get back a few hundred results, you're going to be sitting there going through page after page after page of results, and it's not necessarily classifying them in a really logical way, or a way that lets you quickly make decisions on it. So this was a big thing, is overhauling this design aspect of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, a lot of times with that one, like I alluded to earlier, by default, I think it had the results coming up alphabetically, which absolutely had no relevance whatsoever. We ended up tweaking it a little bit, and it seemed like it got a little bit better, more relevant results. I don't remember exactly what we did at that point. We also introduced, Ektron does have a sense of taxonomy, but it seemed like the search largely ignored the taxonomy. I mean, we put in keywords, and it didn't really help very much.
Yeah. It was very difficult to put things together from an author standpoint as well.
Right.
So I posted this on some previous webcasts before, and if you take a meeting with me, this is kind of a lot of times what we go through. And this is a similar process of what Cathy and Don and I kind of work through, is figuring out when somebody goes to the search engine, this is the experience they're going to go through every time. They're going to enter a query. They're going to get more results than they want, so they need to be able to refine in on those results quickly. They need to be able to identify the content that actually matters to them, and they need to be able to actually do something with it, whether that's set an alert if it changes or download it, or the demands there are different depending on how you're using your content. But this is a takeaway that you can always reference back to. Every search engine, whether you're using SharePoint or some other content management system, this is the search kind of consideration process that you would need to go through for requirement gathering. So you'll notice here I have shots of their new website design, and you can see this live at AANA.com. We did a search here for Foundation, which is the same thing that you saw in Ektron, but look at the experience difference. We have refiners. We have visual best bets with that AANA Foundation. In fact, why am I showing you this on a slide? I might as well show you it live on their particular site. You'll notice this is the current live site. So you'll notice things such as refiners over on the left-hand side. You'll notice visual best bets that they're able to put together. Visually, this is not getting into XML or anything like that. This is just a standard SharePoint 2010 environment, so this isn't fast or anything running. And I'd say that the architecture for it is not overly robust for the speed that you actually get. So it's quite impressive on how they're able to put everything together. But a couple things you'll notice back in Ektron, everything was structured into really deep folders, but there wasn't really a lot of metadata in place. So one of the things we did was we looked at, okay, how do we start getting metadata in place? And this is something that always takes time because you have to get your content authors to begin tagging things. But the initial stage of metadata was breaking things into primary and secondary categories. And a lot of that was designed simply off of how our navigation and site structure is put together. And there's actually other metadata in the site that they've been building out. And so you'll see this site continue to evolve as far as how you're able to drill in on content. You'll also notice down at the bottom, we have different ways of doing grouping, again, based off of metadata. We have different ways of sorting our content. But you can imagine if you did this search and returned 542 results at 10 per page, it would have taken quite a long time to drill into that content. So things become a lot easier as we get refiners, quick filters in place. One of the things that you'll probably notice that stands out quite a lot and is unique for their site here is the preview capability. So you can actually hover over different documents. I can click on a page of a document. It's going to pull up a full page preview for me. If I want, I can zoom in with the scroll mouse. I can jump page to page if I want. So here I could actually open up a full document preview, and I could do multiple of these at one time, so I can compare various different documents within the set. And I think I searched for Foundation right off the back. So it's actually noting the most relevant pages for me. I can jump straight to the pages where the term Foundation shows up on most frequent, and it's going to highlight those terms for me. And again, I can zoom into the page and read it in a higher resolution if I want. One of the interesting notes here is that none of this is Silverlight based. So everything that's been designed on this site was we kept tablets, smartphones, things like that in mind, so that you're able to access the AANA website through any form that you want. You're not really restricted by all sorts of browser plugins and user installs. While we're on just the front end here, is there anything that you wanted to mention, Don or Cathy?
Just thought it was so exciting when Rebecca, who works with Don, and Don showed us the previews and being able to search within a document right from the search results. That's something, I don't think any of us dreamed we'd ever be able to do on our website, and so it was quite thrilling and a great improvement over what we had through Ektron. And it's been a big help. I think the number of phone calls that we get from our very vocal membership have gone down considerably as far as finding things.
Yeah, I gotta say that when our membership was definitely not crazy about the old search, and they kept on saying we want it to be more like Google. We want it to be more like Google.
Yeah.
Well, we tried looking around. I think we even investigated like getting a Google search appliance at one point. But when we initially saw the Ontolica demo, when we were looking at products, and that part just blew us away, and we're like, yeah, the members will love this, because not only does it act like Google and having the suggested words and all that, but then there's the things like, they're even better, like searching within the document or the refiners. It just
and it's really so easy for us to I can't talk about the back end, but just the little things that I do, like the best bet, putting those together. I'm a content person. I'm not a programmer or a developer, and it's quite simple for me to use, and the results have been wonderful.
I mean, it's also the user experience is much. I mean, the old one, you'd enter stuff, it would sit there and spin, and you'd have to click through pages, and it would take a while for cruddy results. Whereas with this, you get great results, and it's fast too.
Yeah, and it's by an order of magnitude at least. I mean, the improvement is astounding.
Yeah, I know when we first started the project with another organization with a public-facing site called ISACA, ISACA, their query time was on average over 30 seconds per query, and you can imagine how painful it is to sit there for 30 seconds to wait for results to come back. And by the time we were done, every query was sub-second results. I know you guys weren't on that extreme end of the scale there, but there was definitely improvements as far as both relevancy and speed. So I don't take up too much more of time here. I know we're kind of at the limit of what I try and promise everybody that we'll stop at. But I just got a couple other things on this, and then we'll open up to QA. This was something that I think most people don't get to see until they test out Ontolica in their own environment. And this is what Cathy was talking about, the ability to make visual best bets easily without having to be a very advanced content author that knows XML and HTML and things like that. So when you see that best bet that was on their site for when I return results for foundations, scholarship, things like that, that was a really key hit that needs to come to the top of the page for them. So the configuration pages for these are much simplified over what you would have in, say, base SharePoint. You can write descriptions, given titles, put in a bunch of keywords. You can do visual best bets, so I can tie in an actual icon. I can also do a couple other more advanced things here. Say that Don and Cathy are doing some sort of push campaign. They could set these best bets up in advance with start and end dates on them, so they don't have to remain published on the site past the time of an event. And also, Cathy doesn't have to worry about, okay, this event ended this day, I have to take this best bet off our site tomorrow, or it'll throw things off. So they can put start and end dates. Also, in advanced deployments, one of the things that they can do is audience targeting. So their members, when they log in, they could give logged-in members different best bets than, say, public members. And again, that's something you can't do in base SharePoint. You can do audience targeting for every one of these features and every one of the best bets. And that audience targeting doesn't just stand with best bets. It also goes into things like search refiners or previews. You want to give public users maybe a different search experience than internal users, because maybe your internal users, they need more of they need a lot more drop downs, for example, on the advanced search page. They want to have a bit more of a library feel to it, whereas your public users, maybe you want it to be a bit more of a simplified experience until they sign up. That's something we actually did with Ferrari back several years ago. When you went to their site, you couldn't get any of the videos when you searched until you logged in, and then it recognized your audience targeting, and it gives you the videos and the images and kind of the sexy stuff on the Ferrari site. So. Anyway, anything that you guys want to mention about that? I'm pretty much done on my end. I have a couple other slides here, but
just what you've got in front of you there, that we are able to select which keywords the best bet comes up under, and just the fact that we can add the visual there is a real nice touch as well.
So, last thing I promised is search steps. What actually, this part of the process, what was involved? So we talked about that we had to do requirement gathering around taxonomy, metadata. How do we want the UI to look and feel up front? We hopped in. We do guided installations. So instead of saying here's the software, have fun, figure it out, we actually hop in and we worked with Don and Cathy and the team to install the software, make sure everything's running, and do some training around it. How do we actually improve this UI and customize this without something that necessarily needs a bunch of professional service work? And that's actually the reason at Surfway we don't sell professional services. It's designed all to be something that we can hand to an end user and they can modify. So going through this process, we finalized the Search Center UI. The solution went from staging to production. There's a configuration file in Ontolica where once you've built out all your search settings, you can just export that configuration and import it into a new environment, so you don't have to reset everything back up in new environments, which anybody that's watching on the implementation teams would really appreciate. And then the final stage that you really can't ignore is making sure that there's continued maturity and continuous review of how things are being tagged in the content, because the search isn't going to work without metadata. But you're not going to have all the metadata that you need on day one. So you continuously look back at the environment and say, okay, what metadata should we really require from our users, and what's the best way to gather that so that we can improve our search experience over time? So I won't go through this in any more detail since we've gone over time, but just some outcomes of what was achieved from the search part of the project, and again, you can see these on the slides. I'm going to have a little information on various different modules that we have. The ones that we worked with in this particular environment are the two on the left, so Ontolica Enterprise Search and Ontolica Search Preview. But there's a lot of other modules that you'll see deployed across various different sites that are out there. If you have any interest in taking a look at those, make sure to let me know. More than happy. My contact information's at the end of this here. It's actually right there. If you want to shoot me a mail or investigate how we can work on a project further in your site. So I'm sure we probably have some questions that are building up in the chat at this point. So we'll start getting into those. So Derek, do you have any questions that have been posed yet, or Don or Cathy, you might have had some things that are sent over to you directly. I've got this little chat window over on the right-hand side that I'm looking to see if anything comes directly to me. We'll give everybody a second to go through that. While you're typing, also encourage that if you get a chance, if you like this presentation, we have webcasts that we're always doing. Check out under our video center here at surfray.com. You'll find all sorts of information on various different webcast topics that we've done, various different quick tips on how to get the most out of SharePoint, whether it's 07 Search Server Express, 2010 Fast, 13, you name it. There's a lot of different content on there that you can take advantage of. I mentioned Michael Pisarek's presentation with us on requirement gathering and how to really build that out. You'll find that right here. Again, that's under surfray.com under our videos section. The slides are available, and feel free to reach out if there's anything we can help with. Don and Cathy, I appreciate you. I hope everybody was able to take away some beneficial feedback from this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye-bye.